As many of you know, as a Ukrainian last over 3 years, I had to cope with the reality of war, living in a city that is under daily shelling and suicide drone attacks. There's been a huge threat for me and my family. And there always was one huge but not very obvious threat for me, particularly as a man. That's a conscription. The price that the Ukrainian nation is paying in this fight is just frightening. It came from volunteers and recruitment to a forced conscription. The police is catching men on the streets, and it doesn't matter if you're a music producer, if you're a programmer or teacher, if you have some health problems, you have epilepsy, you have heart problems, it doesn't matter now. You will go to the war. And the government has turned Ukraine into even more evil twin of Russia with its dictatorship, totalitarianism, and just a bloodlust conscription. But still we keep losing our territories, keep losing our best people, and this war has no end. I couldn't go outside. I had to stay locked in my house to stay alive, to not get caught. My wife was taking care of all the shopping and stuff, while I was kinda losing my mind, locked inside of my house, without any activities, without communication with other people, because all my friends are either on the war or locked just as I am. And this also was the reason why I didn't move to a safer part of Ukraine, because there are lots of roadblocks across the whole country. You can't avoid those. They will either catch you on the roadblock or they will catch you on the train station. There are lots of police who's taking care of the conscription stuff. So they kind of turned my life into a real life Running Man or 1984 type of shit. And I was really starting to lose my mind. I was trying to apply to our government to let me go out to have some show as a musician. There is a program that allows some artists to go out, have a show and get back to Ukraine. I was hoping that this might work for me, but I've got a refusal. Some other guys paid to some shady people who promised them to get them out of Ukraine for $15,000 or $20,000. These guys are taking loans, they are selling all the stuff they own, but I had nothing. I have a house in Nikopol, but I can't sell it because it's under daily shelling. People will not buy a house there unless it's like a couple of $1,000, which won't make a difference because I've spent much more on this house. And I felt like if I stay there for some more, I might hurt someone, really. I felt like if they will try to catch me, I will do everything to stop them from doing this. And this might ruin my life, so I decided to go now while I'm still in some decent mental health. I felt like the longer I stay there, the less are my chances for survival, and not even saying about making music or my mental health. I was still trying to make music, I was trying to record tutorials, but it was super tough. It was the toughest period of my life. So I decided to take my destiny into my own hands and to get out by mountains. It's very risky, my wife wasn't happy about it, but this was the thing that I was focused on during the last month or so. It all started from thinking my road from Nikopol to the starting point, because the distance from my city to my starting point was more than 1,000 kilometers. And the less risky way to get there was by trains, because roadblocks are unavoidable. While traveling by train, you have more chances to observe and to avoid the police. There is police on every train station, but sometimes there are some gaps and weak spots that you could use. We decided to book a hotel in some mountain resort city in Ukraine, in Carpathian Mountains. I bought a 50 liters backpack. It was quite big, and I was hoping to finish my road in 2 or 3 days. I've packed the backpack, got my sleeping bag, got my food. I've used the sublimated food, it's the dried one. I took some basic stuff for survival, for cooking, for protection, some medicine and stuff like that. And altogether it was like 20 or 25 kilos, which felt quite heavy, especially during the first day and during the last days of my trip. And we've packed all this stuff and sent it using post to the destination city. While on our train backpacks, we took some basic, obvious stuff for traveling with a kid. I took my wife, my kid, and I was carrying my son all the time because it would increase my chances to not get caught. Yeah, I had to use my son as a shield, and I am proud of it, but they forced me to do this to survive, and I had to do this to keep my son's father alive and to get my son out of there together with me and my wife. So it is what it is. Moreover, it would have been a nationwide scandal if they would try to kidnap a man carrying a child. So we decided that I will carry my kid. So the train trip was okay. We've spent almost 24 hours in trains and it was okay. We were avoiding the police until on the very last destination city. The police were waiting right behind the open doors of the train. So luckily, my son was asleep on my hands. I was carrying him and my wife was carrying all of the stuff. So we were a handful. And we decided to wait until all the other men leave the train. We waited a couple of minutes and left the train, and the police were already checking the documents of other men and they were questioning them. So they were busy and this helped us successfully sneak right through them and get to the taxi. We have called some local taxi driver in advance while we were on the train. So he already was waiting for us on the train station and we headed straight to him, found his car, hopped right into it and headed to our hotel. And we successfully got there. We called a courier to deliver our package with all of my mountain stuff. And this worked just fine. I spent our first day packing my backpack while my wife was outside with our kid. Local people were asking so much questions to my wife and we started to get a bit paranoid about being there, and we felt like those local people are all working together with the police and the border control. So we planned to stay there for a couple of days, acting like some normal tourists, exploring the mountains, but I decided that I don't want to stay here any longer. I will start my adventure tomorrow. I was planning my whole adventure hiding under a very dense vegetation. And we've booked a hotel that was pretty close to the mountain forest. But to get there, you have to pass a local people's house. Those were the people that were asking my wife, and they were almost all day in their garden. And they had a nasty barking dog, so I was planning how to pass them unnoticed. And we were spending our evening all together. I turned on the TV and there was a Rambo movie. We were laughing so much because this movie was so relevant to my current situation. And I was joking like, I hope I will not have to do all the stuff that Rambo is doing to stay alive and to get away from those bad guys. So yeah, that was pretty fun. And I woke up at 4 a.m. next day and ate a couple of sandwiches, kissed my wife goodbye, and started my trip. It was pretty dark still, and I get to this house. The dog was barking, so I ran just past this house. And right after it, there were 3 streams. The first one was looking pretty easy to cross, but there were some rocks to hop on, and I hop on the first rock, hop on the second one, and on the third one, my leg slipped and it was completely wet. I had a very good shoes with a waterproof membrane, but some of the water got inside through the top of the shoes. I failed during my very first minutes of my trip, and I thought maybe I'm very optimistic about my abilities to fight the nature, but I I kept going and I successfully passed the second stream. But the third one was pretty big and I didn't want to risk. I took off my shoes, took off my socks, and crossed it with my bare feet. And the water was pretty close to zero. It was freezing cold. Glad it was a summertime. Yeah, still it was a very early morning and the temperature was low outside, but it felt very refreshing and gave me some adrenaline to keep going. So I kept going and I got on some tourist road. It was some good news, but at the same time, I wasn't very optimistic about it because there were some photo traps to take pictures of people who are traveling by those roads. And if the border control sees some men traveling by this road, they can arrive right to this point where you are currently and catch you and arrest you. Also, on some open areas, there were drones and helicopters patrolling the territory, patrolling the mountains, catching men who are trying to find their way to freedom. And I was walking like 30 or 40 minutes until a very, very thick fog appeared. The farthest distance that I could see was like 40 or 50 meters, which made me super confident. I felt very safe there, and I kept going. I knew that at least helicopters and drone won't see me, and I kept going. Like in 20 minutes, I saw some side road, which was directing me into the forest. And I took this road, kept going, entered the forest, and I felt very safe there. I felt like there is no way they can see me, they can catch me there. And I had some time to cook some food, to take some rest, and to drink some tea, and to dry my socks because those were very wet. The adaptation to mountains took a whole day. During the first couple of hours, I felt like, what the hell am I doing? This is impossible. My heart rate was just crazy. It was 120 BPM for sure, and my lungs were burning. My legs were telling me to stop, and my back was aching quite badly. The backpack felt like 100 kilos, and I wanted to drop everything I had except some food and to keep going because I felt like this is impossible. But during the end of the day, I felt like I coping with this trip quite okay. I can definitely do this. I can definitely do this, and I was planning to do this in 2 or 3 days maximum. But my plan wasn't working. There was a very huge river to cross, but it's not a big deal to cross the river because there are lots of fallen trees. You can use those as a bridge. There are some places where you can hop on the rocks. That's quite risky, but you can do this. But when I came to this river, to the point that I expected to cross it, there was a huge cliff. So it was impossible to get to this river. This cliff was like 50 or 100 meters high, and there was no way without any climbing equipment to do this. If I had this climbing equipment, I wouldn't risk it, of course. So I changed my plan, and this also learned me a lesson on traveling mountains and crossing the rivers. If it's possible, it's better to find a place where you can bend this river and overcome it without crossing it. Find its start and cross it where it's just tiny or where there is no river at all, because it's always flowing from high to low ground. And on the high ground, it's small. So the erosion is not so big, while as it goes down, the river is starting to be wider. Bigger amount of ground is being washed as it goes down. It's also getting more deep to the ground. So in most cases, river is hidden right inside those two cliffs. So this made me work for additional half of the day to find a way to cross this river. And during my next days of my trip, I was trying to avoid rivers unless it's a small stream. By the end of the day, I expected to cross the river and to go a couple of kilometers further, but I had to sleep right near this cliff. It was getting dark and I was really tired. I decided to sleep there. My first night was very stressful. I was ready for it, but it felt kind of creepy anyway. I found a perfect place. It was a flat ground hidden behind a huge pine tree branches, so it already looked like some kind of a shelter, and I put my tent inside it. I took some foil. It was some life-saving thermal foil, and I've used it to hide my tent from drones, because the border control uses the drones with thermal cameras, and they can clearly see you during the night time. So I use this foil to cover my tent, to make it invisible, for some thermal layer. And on top of this thermal foil, I've covered my masking tent. It was just great. I've used it to cover myself sometimes, and I've also used it to cover my tent, and I felt very safe inside it. The only thing that made me feel unsafe were some animals. I was going to sleep and it was a night time already. Well, when I heard someone screeching near my head outside the tent, I thought it's some kind of a mouse, because I felt that it's tiny, but it was freaking annoying. I was trying to spook it, but it was screeching anyway. So it was annoying, but I felt like, doesn't matter. I will really need to get some sleep, and I will get some sleep. I will just ignore it. The night felt okay, while at 4 or 5 a.m. I heard some really massive rumbling, like someone big is smashing the trees, is running like 50 meters from my tent. I went out of my tent and witnessed a small bear. I felt very unlucky, because if you cross a bear in the woods, it's very dangerous. But if you cross a bear and its baby, you're a dead man. So I did my best to not get noticed. This little guy was running nearby, but the speed that he was running, it was just insane. I thought it's more possible to run away from a bear, but when I saw him running, I understood that I am a pathetic runner compared to this guy right there. So I felt that if he noticed me, there is no way to get out of there alive. He didn't notice me. He ran away. I thought like, okay, let's pack my stuff and get the hell out of here. And I had no breakfast, had no tea or coffee at all. Just pack my stuff and run away. I started going, went like 100 meters until I saw some big stone, very mossy stone. And yesterday I saw this kind of stone and decided that it might be a quite good place to set my tent there. If I set my tent over here, I will be protected from at least one side. But under this stone, I saw a huge bear sleeping. He turned his back to me, so he couldn't see me. But when I saw it, I changed my direction, started to go from there. There were so many branches and leaves that were crumbling, cracking. I was rustling, and I felt like the whole forest can hear me. But for some reason, this bear didn't hear me and didn't see me, didn't get me any attention at all. So I had a chance to hide behind the tree and even get some video with this bear. So here it is. But yeah, it was very stressful. I felt like, no way, if this is my first and second day of my trip, what's gonna be next? Because there were lots of bears in Carpathian Mountains. So I successfully get away from there and walked another 4 or 5 kilometers to get to the point where I could cross this river finally. And the second day was less stressful. I stick to the dense vegetation, to some forests, and I didn't see any photo traps, any drones, any helicopters. I heard some distant helicopter very far away from me, but I felt okay, I felt safe that day. I even had some time to capture the beauty of the nature, some animals, lots of snails, lots of salamanders. It felt like amazing. You are united with the nature, and it felt, after my 3 years of isolation, it felt like some kind of a treatment and like I am having a vacation finally. I took a 1-liter bottle of water. I bought some special water that prevents dehydration. So when I ran out of this water, I had to replenish my supply using streams. Those mountain streams are quite okay to drink from. And just in case, I took a set of pills, a chlorine pills to kill the bacteria in the water. And I was using it to disinfect the water all the time, in case some animal or other stuff had contaminated the water. I don't want to spend a day or two having some health problem, puking and stuff like that. Having a limited amount of food, this could end my trip right away. The problem with this mountain water was that it was just a pure H2O, and there was no any minerals, no electrolytes. You cannot satisfy your thirst with this water, and you can drink 1 cup, 2 cups, 3 cups until you start puking, but you still will not get enough. And to fix this, I bought a powder. It was the isotonic powder. It contained all the minerals and electrolytes for your organism, and I just added it to this water and I felt just perfect. I wasn't drinking too much, yet I was satisfying my thirst and I had some energy to keep going. So this second day helped me to understand that my plan isn't working. I expected to cross the border in one point. It was relatively safe and the mountains there were lower. But I understood that to get there, I need additional 3 or 4 days of walking, while I had supply for maximum of 2 days left. So I decided to change my plan and to get to another point. This one was much more tough to get to. It was more protected. The mountains there were higher and the vegetation were more dense. It was barely possible to get through it, and I had no other option. There was no way back, and I took the risk and I went there. My third day felt much less secured. I felt much more controlled because I already started to hear a helicopter near me. I spent much more time hiding under my masking cover, and on this day I was getting through lots of nasty bushes, nasty tiny pine trees that were growing very close together, and I had to literally swim across this pine tree forest and go through this kind of bushes. They are not very high, like knee high, but this is not very comfortable to get through those. I still remember this cracking of the branches under your feet, and it felt very tough. I never wanted to get back there anymore, and I was looking for some water because I ran out of water, and I knew that some stream may be down the mountain. I had to go down like 200 or 300 meters with under the very dense vegetation. I found a stream. I replenished my water supply. I was sitting there taking my breath and drinking water while I heard some barking. This felt like the end of my whole trip. And I got my cover on. I hid behind this. I was totally invisible for the human eye, but for the dog, I was clearly visible and sniffable. I saw this dog running down the mountain, sniffing my trail exactly, until he sniffed and he came right to me. I thought like, okay, this is the end. This dog will start barking, some border control will get and arrest me and send me to the war. This dog was so beautiful, it felt like this must be some border control dog. It's not a stray dog. But when I showed myself, this dog saw me and he spooked away and ran away. And yeah, it turned out to be some stray dog for real. There were lots of lumberjacks, and probably these lumberjacks were taking care of this dog. This was probably one of the most stressful moments of my trip, when I was close to the end. So I continued my trip. Every day I was walking less and less kilometers. During my first day, I walked 12 kilometers. On my second day, I walked 10 kilometers. And on my third day, I walked 9 kilometers. It was because the mountains were becoming much higher. The density of the forest was increasing, and because I was getting much more careful. There also were some border control on bikes. So yeah, I was getting more careful. I was listening a lot. I was observing a lot. And we're doing everything to stay unnoticed. I was completely in a stealth mode. I found some 30 or 40 years old abandoned lumberjack roads. It was like flat forest on the mountain with not a lot of trees because some of them were cut. There were some roads made for big trucks carrying the logs. This saved me lots of time walking by these roads, not climbing some bushes and stuff like that. It was very comfortable, very quick way to get to the point that I wanted to get to. And the atmosphere, the vibe there was just amazing. I mean, like I'm in some computer game location. It felt just amazing. And I spent lots of time on my last couple of days walking by this old lumberjack road. Sometimes I even heard some lumberjacks working, screaming. I heard some chainsaws working, but I was trying to ban those guys because I didn't want to cross any people. This attempt to get out wanted to be successful, and I was doing everything to get it right. On that day, I needed to cross a river. I was looking for a place to cross it for a long time. There were either some very steep cliffs or the river itself was impossible to cross. It was very dangerous. The stream was so strong. And I found a relatively safe place to do this, to cross it. I was on the very steep hill, and there were some trees on this hill. Down this hill, there was this river, and right after this river, there was some road. And after this road, there was another steep hill, and it was almost vertical. There were some roots, so I thought maybe I could grab those roots and climb up. And I was sitting there, hiding behind the tree, thinking on how better to cross it, until I heard some very, very huge and heavy machinery rumbling. I sit there waiting, and I hid behind my cover until I saw a tractor riding, and some man wearing a khaki backpack was on top of this tractor. He was looking on the hill where I was sitting, hiding, and luckily he didn't see me. But they were riding across on this road, very dirty road, on this tractor, and they were riding near this river. My guess is that those were the lumberjacks, and this tractor was delivering this man to some lumberjacks working area, because that road was so wet and dirty that it's impossible to walk on it. So yeah, I waited for them to ride far away from me, and I started running. I ran down this hill, crossed this river. I crossed this road, very muddy road. I was stuck in this mud very badly, so I ran to this steep hill and started grabbing the roots, and I successfully climbed up, ran for another 50 meters up the hill, and found some place to take a rest and to drink some water until I heard that that tractor is getting back. So I've picked a perfect timing to cross this river, found some safe spot, and the tractor was riding that exact road. So happy he didn't see me, and I've managed to cross it, but this was very stressful. Sometimes I had to cross just a crazy windbreaks. It was an area with lots and lots of dead fallen trees, and it was very tough and very physical to cross this area. And last couple of days I was doing lots of this stuff, and this was another factor that decreased my amount of kilometers that I walked during these days. Sometimes I had to climb some 60 or 70 degrees hills. I had to grab the roots and branches of some small vegetation to get there, but my shoes were just great. I never slept on wet leaves. I only slept on bark, on wet bark and wet rocks. So I was trying to avoid those, but on leaves, those are working just amazing. So yeah, it was really tough physically. It was lots of climbing stuff. And sometimes I thought like, damn, I'm in such a place where even Bear Grylls wouldn't survive. And it's impossible, but you gotta do this. You gotta pass this hill, you gotta pass this river, and you gotta do this. During this trip, I stopped thinking of obstacles as an obstacle and started to think of those as an opportunity. That's a very basic mindset. If you're a music producer, but when you are trying to escape to your freedom, this is just the right mindset for you. First you think, dude, this is impossible. Then when you finally do this, you think, well, this was pretty doable. So if I did this, I can probably do all the rest of the way. This mindset helped me a lot to get to my goal, and I can recommend it to you as a music producer struggling for your career. So sometimes I was walking such areas that probably even wild animals won't get there, but still I saw some lumberjacks spray painted on the trees, some marks with some information about this tree. So those guys even got there, so why can't I? On my final day of the trip, I started to hear a helicopter right above my head. I walked like 4 or 5 kilometers on this day. That's because I was super careful. I wasn't very far away from the border, and the security there was much more heavy and much more intensive. I was running out of food, and while during my first day of the trip, I never wanted to eat, like really wanted to eat. I had a lot of adrenaline, a lot of my body resources, and I ate just to eat, to have some energy, and I had to force myself to eat. While on this final 4th day of my trip, I wanted to eat all the time, wanted to eat everything, and so bad. But I was running out of food, and I knew that I had to do this today. I was covering a lot with my masking cover, and this helped me hiding from the helicopter because it was flying right above my head a couple of times during the day. And I had to climb a 1,700 meters mountain. But the problem was that this was the stuff that I was afraid most of all. I got an injury. I injured my Achilles tendon because when climbing up the mountain, my leg was in this position all the time. My Achilles tendon over here on my leg felt very bad. I felt like at some point I pulled something in there, and I was very afraid that I may even tear it completely, so which would make me disabled for sure. I had some medication, I had some painkillers. I've used those during my last day all the time. I've used lots of ointment and I had some elastic bandages combined with painkillers. This kind of helped me. I was very careful. Sometimes I had to climb up backwards. Sometimes I had to climb up with my legs twisted, but I felt okay. It was helping, and there was final road to cross. This one of the roads that border control bikers were using to patrol the mountain. I came and I crossed this road. I was really careful. Near this road, under the tree, I saw this set of uniform, a border control uniform. Yeah, I had some courage or some silliness to stop and take a shot of it, but I turned the camera off and I ran up the mountain and got hidden behind the bushes. And right after that, in a couple of minutes, I heard some engine rumbling. That was the border control biker who was patrolling this road that I crossed 5 minutes ago. And it was a close call, but I was 500 meters from the border, finally. I was climbing up, and until I saw some crazy, insane vegetation. Those were some kind of bushes that you call the Carpathian jungles. I don't know how this stuff is called, but these bushes are so dense that even a cat can barely cross it. And there were like 200 or 300 meters of these bushes between me and the border. I had no chance. I had a huge backpack, and all I came up to do was to abandon all my belongings, everything I had, took something super vital. I decided to take my main phone, which was 20% charged, and my spare phone, my old phone, which was 100% charged. I needed navigation so badly, so those phones were crucial. Also, my power bank was dead, so I threw it away. I took my tent, I left my sleeping bag, I left my sleeping mat, I left my medication, I left basically everything. Lots of clothes, all of my stuff. I almost had no food. I took my last bag of dry soup, and I took my documents and my wallet, and as the last resort, I took my compass. I bought a real compass in case all of my phones and my power bank will die, but I have never used it. I still have it over here as a reminder of my trip to freedom. And also I threw away all of my masking stuff, all of my covers, and I only took this buff to cover my neck or my head from sun. I put my phones and my documents inside of this little bag, and I was carrying a small bag with my tent. In this bag I also had a couple of foils, thermal foils, in case I will have to sleep in the forest one more night. I would have covered myself to not get cold, because I have no sleeping bag anymore. So yeah, I was getting ready to my final steps to my freedom, and the problem was that those bushes weren't very dense to cover me under the bushes. I was visible pretty good from above, and this made me no favor when I heard a drone patrolling the peak of the mountain that I was heading to. It flew, I don't know, maybe 50 or 100 meters on my side, and it flew right there. It passed me. He didn't see me, but I was under the bare sky. I wasn't hidden, and the funny thing was, if he saw me, it would take another couple of hours to get out of these bushes in any direction. So all the rest of the time that I was climbing up, I was really praying for them to not see me, because I imagined that they maybe are staying there on the peak of the mountain, on the border, waiting for me, waiting for another couple of hours until I get there, to have a laugh and to arrest me. So I was really hoping a lot that no one see me, because sometimes there were some small areas without any vegetation, like 1 meter around me, when I clearly could see another mountain in front of me, and on that mountain there were some buildings, there were some houses. Maybe border control were using them, maybe someone else, maybe tourists, but I was quite sure that if I can see those, they can see me probably as well. So I was trying to get back to the vegetation, and it was getting dark, and the picture was just beautiful. I was admiring the beauty of the mountains, the beauty of the nature, but I was also very proud of the way that I came to get there. I was taking a look at what is left, but also I was taking a look at what's behind. And it was really massive. 4 days of walking, 1,600 meters, 1,700 meters, climbing up, getting down all the time. This was quite a trip, yeah. What's left is just a couple of final steps. I was throwing this small bag behind me and getting through these bushes myself. Sometimes I felt like some freaking special ops because I was literally crawling to trying to get through these bushes. And once I even saw some kind of I don't know if it was natural or it was human made, but it looked like some mountain bunker hidden inside of these bushes. I saw some kind of a corridor that was leading in some kind of a cave, but I never wanted to take risks. This would be a bad decision to end my trip dying inside of this cave, not knowing what's inside. So I just took a shot of it and climbed up to my freedom until I saw the end of these bushes, and there were some 100 or 150 meters left to the peak of the mountain where there's no vegetation at all. I had to run under the open skies, completely visible to border control, completely visible to drones and helicopters. So I decided to wait until it gets completely dark. I was sitting there inside of these bushes and I really wanted to eat. I had this dry porridge that you had to add some hot water to it, but obviously I had nothing to make it hot there now, and I just took this porridge, poured it inside of my mouth, and I got some cold water from the stream and mixed it in my mouth and kind of eat it. At least I got some energy, some minerals and proteins, and that's better than nothing, as Bear Grylls says. And I was running out of water. That was really bad news because I never knew where I will find the next stream. So that was a mystery that I had to solve, and I was really running out of water. So I waited for a couple of more hours until it gets really dark. I saw some white thing. I thought it may be some border control tent or something, but it turned out just a huge rock laying down, and I felt a relief and started running. I ran like 50 meters and stopped, hid myself behind the bushes, and even found some time and courage to take a picture of what's left and what's behind. The freedom was so close, just 50 meters left to it, and I observed the surrounding and I saw no one. I started running, it was really dark. I ran so badly. The bushes were like knee high. They were really crunchy and there was so much noise. I was trying to do my best to not be too noisy. But yeah, after 5 or 7 of stressful minutes, I finally reached the top of the mountain and I saw the freedom. I ran my ass as fast as possible down this hill. I already was on the Romanian side of the border, but there was no vegetation at all, no forests on the Romanian side. The landscape there was so deathful, it was just insane. Cliffs, lots of rivers, lots of very huge intensive slopes, and it was getting really dark. I've managed to run 100 or 200 meters from the border until I saw a backpack. Some other guy running his way to freedom, he threw away this backpack, and there was just one thing, and that was the thing that I needed the most. It was the sleeping bag. And I decided to take a sleep on near the border, because if I would continue running on this kind of landscape, I would probably be dead, because it's so easy to kill yourself. It's so unpredictable. And it was so difficult to find some flat area, at least 1 or 2 meters of flat space. So I spent like 20 or 30 minutes of searching until I found some big pine tree, and with this kind of branches hiding me pretty well, and some tiny flat area, but it wasn't very flat, but it was just okay to set my tent. Sleeping bag that I found was kinda had some mold inside of it, so I couldn't get inside of this bag. I've used it as a mattress. I put it on inside of my tent. I put some thermal fold on it, and I've used another fold to cover myself. I can say that this night was one of the toughest one. The wind on this side of the mountains was just crazy. I thought that my tent will fly away together with me because it was going like this, but it was still standing. Everything was okay, and I heard some huge animals rustling around my tent. It was quite spooky. I thought I could die here from some bear, but I will die as a free man because I'm out finally. And still it was very cold. Without a sleeping bag, it felt very cold. So I slept like 3 or 4 hours. And by the way, just when I crossed the border, I turned on my phone, my roaming. I called my wife, said I am free. We were very happy. And she was very stressful all of these days because I was planning to go 2 or 3 days and it turned out 4, and now I was entering my 5th day. And yeah, so it was a big relief to let her know that I'm free. And the next morning I woke up at 5 a.m. and I saw the scale of the Romanian mountains. Those were just insane. And I saw the point where I crossed the border. I sent my final greetings to the regime that keep killing our men and treating them as some meat and slaves. So I greeted them and I continued my trip. I was super hungry and I slept a couple of hours, so I was kind of dizzy. I decided to eat my final bag of dry pea soup, and I found a stream to get some water. I just put this soup inside of my mouth, dry, and drank some water. It was freezing cold, and the soup was super salty. It felt disgusting, but at least it was some energy, and I found some strength to keep going. I knew that there should be some kind of a tourist mountain house, kind of a house or shelter, where I can probably find some good stuff or someone for help. And I spent like 2 or 3 hours climbing up and down the mountains, enjoy the beauty of local nature, enjoy some flowers and take some beautiful shots until I saw this house, I saw this shelter, and I get to it. And this shelter was empty. There was lots of other stranded people's belongings, some useful stuff for making fire, even some clothes and stuff like that. But I took nothing, I needed nothing. I had everything I needed to get to the nearest city, which was 10 or 15 kilometers from area that I just crossed the border. Right after this shelter, I found just an amazing trail made exactly to reach this nearest city or village. And I was walking this road. It was next to the river. This was just a sensational experience. And the thing that boosted this joy was the fact that I'm now a free man. This area, these locations made me think that I'm inside of some Half-Life game or some Stalker, some Far Cry. This was just stunning. The beauty of this nature. I will never forget this. climbing down on the Romanian side, I saw lots of belongings. I saw some winter masking suit that other guy was wearing probably on his way out. I thought that how tough it was to get through this road during a winter time, because the temperature over there on the top of the mountain is just crazy low. The wind is strong. The snow is so high you can probably stuck in there forever, but some guy have managed to get through this, and I really admire people who are fighting for their freedom like this. This is what's called the will for freedom and for life. After a couple of hours of walking, I finally started seeing some people, some shepherds, some sheep, and another couple of hours led me to a road. This road was with people, with cars, and there was a man riding a car who stopped by, said, I see you're from Ukraine. Let me drive you to the nearest village and I will call the border police. They will take care of you and you'll be okay, you'll be safe. So I said, okay. I was really happy because I had no any energy to keep walking. The sun was burning really bad. He drove me to some village. There was some, I don't know, kind of a bar or cafe. He bought me coffee and I had no money to pay off. He said, no, I don't need no money from you. I'm just helping Ukrainians. His name is Florin and I will never forget him. I wish him all the best and all the people who supports guys like me. And border control arrived. They took my knife because it was kind of a weapon. They drove me to the local border control center. Those guys have brought me a huge plate of some kind of steaks, some kind of a salad, and I said, are you hungry? I said, very much. And they gave me this plate, said, eat it as much as you want. I was eating, they were asking me some questions. This is a standard procedure for people who cross the border. In an hour or two, they drove me to another city, a big city, to get my documents right, to register me as a refugee. So they sent me back to Ukraine. And it took a couple of more hours and everyone was so sweet, so good to me. I felt like I'm ready to cry because last couple of years in Ukraine were horrible in all terms, and I was treated like a meat, and now I felt like I'm a real human, and I was super happy about it. I really enjoyed Romania. They said me, you're free to go, whatever you want. I spent a couple of days there and I enjoyed Romania so much. I enjoyed Romanian people. My wife and my son came to me. They passed me some of my belongings, my laptop, my camera, so I can now record this message to you guys. And they got back to Ukraine to settle all the things that need to be done before finally moving out of there altogether forever. I will never get back to Ukraine probably. The government is doing everything to stop me from doing this. I have nothing I own there now. We will move to Germany. I don't want my son to assemble drones in school, learning to fly drones. I don't want my son to live with a war. Eternal war is what is waiting for Ukraine. Unfortunately, my heart breaks to say it, but yeah, we will never get freedom, we will never get peace. This is lasting more than 100 years. Fighting with Russia is taking so much people. So I want to change something. There's even, in Ukrainian national anthem, there are words like, we will lay our soul and our body for our freedom. Also, there is a motto of Ukrainian people, freedom or death. Unfortunately, all we are doing here is laying our bodies for our freedom, but we'll never get freedom. We never get freedom, we never get basic good life that other people in Europe and in other parts of the world are getting. I want something better for my son. I want something better for me and my family. So that's why I decided to take risks. I want something better for my career as a musician. I want finally to get some shows running, to have gigs. I want to communicate with people, to make contacts, to work with labels. And I've done probably more than any other drum and bass producer in this world. And I will do my best to get a better life for me and my family. I need all the support you guys can give me now, because I'm starting my life from a freaking scratch. Just like a serum preset, I'm starting it from scratch. I have nothing. So yeah, if you are from Germany, I would love to get any advices, any support from you guys. If you are from any part of the world, if you're a label, you want to work with me, if you're making parties and you want to see me there, just feel free to book me. I'm available for booking now. And for other guys who is struggling with your career, with your different problems in your life, I want to set a good example of how to stop seeing the obstacles and start seeing the opportunities. You can congratulate me with my freedom. I hope this video motivates you to be better and to achieve the desired results in your life and your career. I hope that other Ukrainian guys who is struggling for their lives there will follow my example and will find their way to freedom, just like I did. And hope this massacre in Ukraine will end real soon. Look at this. When I was riding a train across Romania, I occupied some random seat. I turned on my laptop. I started working in FL Studio after a long time. I turned my head on the side and I saw this sticker: "Make music, not war." I felt like the God himself is sending me the message. I'm sitting making music. I see this message. What's the freaking probability of such a coincidence? So yeah, I decided to choose music, not war, and another good option to choose love, not war. This is how my legs were looking when I get to the hotel on the Romanian side. My Achilles tendon is still kinda hurts, but my legs are already kinda okay. I still have lots of mosquito bites and sunburns, but other than that, I feel just perfect. Thank you so much for being a part of PHENOMSOUND community and for all your support. Congratulate me with the first day of the rest of my life and sending nothing but love, guys. Nothing but love.